Welcome to the Pickleball Recovery Podcast, where we highlight products and practices to help you feel better faster, so you can spend less time stiff, sore, and injured, and more time on the court doing what you love. This podcast is sponsored by Zamst. Zamst reinforces and protects athletes by providing premium technical products in the form of athletic braces and supports derived from innovative materials, designs, and manufacturing processes for the ankle, knee, elbow, and more. Find out more about these high-quality products built to prevent injury, improve performance, and ultimately help you spend more time on the court at www.zamst.us. And use the code PBR to save 15%. What's up? Welcome to another episode of Pickleball Recovery. I'm your host, Tim Ringgold. How you doing? You play any pickleball today? This comes out on a Monday. I don't play any pickleball on Mondays. That's my day off. One of my days off. Gosh, at one point I was so crazy that it was like my only day off. And then my body said, nope. And my trainer said, nope. And my chiropractor said, nope. And everybody around me except my little pickleball addict brain was saying nope to too much pickleball. And I finally figured it out. I can't play 6 days a week or 5 days a week or 4 days a week. Guys, I'm down to 3 days a week right now, and it's feeling great. Yeah, fascinating. Like just having to figure that out has been quite a long journey. So here I am in the studio, and it is Monday, April 8th, and this weekend is the NPL draft. Let's go. National Pickleball League, the team league for senior pros. And I'll be honest with you guys, I am punching above my weight. I think my duper is currently lagging at like 4.74 in doubles. I'm a 5.03 in singles, but I've retired from singles officially because I hit my 3 goals, which was 1, medal at the senior pro level in singles, 2, reach a 5.0 in duper rating in singles, and 3, spend at least a year or 2 out on the road meeting all the other guys so that I could meet partners for doubles. Well, I did all 3, and my body can't handle both. And I want to get better at doubles, and I only have a certain number of hours per week I can devote to any pickleball. And so they need to be devoted to doubles. And so I have stepped away from singles for the foreseeable future, and I don't miss it, to be honest with you. I really only ever learned it for 2 reasons. 1, I'm a soccer player, so I was just noticing I wanted the run out, on my legs, and 2, for the, reasons I just said, mainly to break into the senior pro tour, because it's easier to just schedule yourself than trying to find partners you've never met. So job's done. But now the next goal is to make one of the National Pickleball League teams. And that's what this year has been all about for me. And so fingers crossed, I hope I'm not jinxing myself, but fingers crossed, one of those teams picks me up this weekend. And I can't wait. I think team pickleball is just the most fun way pickleball is done, in my opinion, of all the different versions of competitive and tournament pickleball. The most fun I've ever had is being in a league on a team. So I really hope this comes true for me. That'll be a really, really, really cool thing. Okay, moving on. This week, I can't wait for you guys to listen to this episode. We had so much fun. We also had a lot of trouble technically, but we made it through. We had all kinds of hiccups. Turns out it was my fault. I have a 7-year-old MacBook Pro. It can't handle the streaming software I use for the podcast anymore. So yeah, I had to buy a new computer. Ugh, that wasn't fun. Yeah, it was 0% fun, in fact. So, but at least, the gear is now up to date. So, but into the conversation we go, because this was a fascinating dive into the world of kinesiology tape and compression sleeves. Now, what I can tell you about Go sleeves, I've worn a lot of different compression sleeves in my day. By far, the best sleeve I've ever worn is Go sleeves, bar none. So as you guys listen to this, you'll hear why it's, and it's really in a category of one. So I really want you to check these guys out, because if you've ever benefited from wearing compression sleeves, you're going to want to try one of these Go sleeves. And if you do, then you can go to their website, ghostsleeves.com/PBR, and you can save 15% on anything they sell. Or you can just use my discount at the checkout, which is PBR for Pabst Blue Ribbon. I mean, Pickleball Recovery. Right, of course. So yeah, seriously, check them out. They're phenomenal. All right, so let's just dive right in, okay? So sit back, relax, enjoy the ride, and I'll see you on the other side. Gentlemen, welcome to Pickleball Recovery. It's great to have you.
Thank you, sir. Great to be here.
Yeah, so for those of you listening, we've got Darren Lancaster and Dr. Ethan Kreiswirth, both with Go Sleeves, the world's only kinesiology sleeves. For those of you listening, there's a giant banner right over Darren's head right now. I'm literally reading right off it, so I'm just cheating. But yeah, this is there it is. We're going to have a really great conversation today, not just because if three bald men with glasses can't come up with something smart to say, the world has no future. But above that, and again, for those of you who are listening, this is just my constant and never ending, as you know, relentless drive to get you guys to go over to the YouTube channel and watch the hilarity, because it's just fun. So maybe you'll do that now that you realize, oh, what I wanted to do today, you know what? I woke up this morning, I was thinking, I'll get breakfast, but what I really want is I want to watch three bald men in glasses talk to each other about kinesiology sleeves. That would do it today. Like, wow. And here I am, and here we are, and here you are, and you're welcome. So let's get into it. So as the proverbial guinea pig and student in the pickleball world, I have witnessed a million pieces of armor. That's what I call them, armor, on the court. Being 51, it seems like when I'm at any community, courts, whether it's a club or it's just a park, anybody over 50 either is wearing some sort of armor on an elbow, on a knee, on a thigh, on a calf, on an ankle, somewhere. And they've got two more in their bag in case you need one, right? They come equipped. And that's the beauty of the pickleball community, is like they'll have an extra ball in case you need an extra ball. They'll have an extra paddle, but they'll also have like extra drugs. They'll have extra creams. They'll have extra braces, extra sleeves. Like, what do you need? I got a little of this over here. This one was really good for me. Back, blah, 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 blah. And so along that journey, I ran into this brand called Go Sleeves. And I thought, wait a minute, I've seen kinesiology tape. Wait a minute, I've seen sleeves. It's like the peanut butter, the Reese's peanut butter commercials when we were growing up. Your chocolate's in my your peanut butter's in my chocolate. Like, when I saw your product, I thought, I've never seen anything like this. So I'm excited that we get to hang out today and kind of geek out on how this came to be. And particularly, what's the difference between a sleeve and a brace? Because I think I didn't know that, right? And then the third thing is this one particular application that I haven't heard anybody talk about, which is tennis leg. So those are the kind of the three things we're going to get into today with you guys. So Darren, let's kick it off with you. Tell me a little bit about the kind of the origin story of Go Sleeves. Where'd you guys come from? How'd you find yourself involved? And then how'd you find pickle?
Totally, yeah. Great setup. Well, it started in basketball. So, us bald guys tend to get into basketball too. And my partner in this product, in this brand, Roy Carrillo, he played some college ball and a little professional ball in the Philippines. So he's got some chops. I have none. I started playing basketball late in life, so I just try to stay in front of him. And we've been playing basketball for nearly 20 years together. And he was the guy that really was that guy, right? He's the medicine man, shows up with the bag at the court and, hey, you need some NSAIDs, some painkillers, you need a brace, you need some tape. What do you need? I got you covered, right? That's that guy. Because he needs it for himself. And so after so many years of seeing that and dealing with that, and even him just popping in, painkillers, I want to play, I want to be in the game, right? It really was about that simple. The peanut butter chocolate thing come together. I mean, I'd like to say we're really smart, but it really was kind of an obvious he brought it up one day, and together we have a marketing company, marketing agency that we've been building and helping a lot of other brands. We're like, we've got this team. What are we doing with it? Why aren't we launching some of our own products again? And so the idea came up, and went into the garage. It's a typical Silicon Valley thing. Here we are, one more. We're based in San Jose, California. So went in the garage. We started working on Emerson. Emerson is his name. He's a 6'5" mannequin. He's an absolute stud. And Emerson started getting, a little bit ravaged. And as we tested out putting sleeves on him and building essentially medical grade silicone into these reusable compression sleeves. And the medical grade silicone is what mimics the kinesiology tape that you see on all of these athletes. If you haven't had it on your body, turn on the Olympics and start watching, female beach volleyball. It's terrible. I wouldn't recommend it, but you'll see kinesiology tape, or just about any other professional sport. You'll see kinesiology tape, and it's usually used in a scenario where it's about recovering from an injury, or you have a susceptibility and you're trying to prevent it, because it's challenging. It's challenging to put on correctly and keep it on, and it's wasteful and it doesn't stay on, and so on and so forth. So
all those things. 100%.
Yeah, all those things. So we really just brought two broadly researched technologies that have been proven to help people stay active into the Reese's combo, right? This sleep, good
there
stuff.
You go.
Inside. Yeah.
And I like, entrepreneurs solve problems. That's their role. They see a problem, they create a solution, they bring the solution to market to help solve a very specific issue or a broad issue. And when I think about sleeves and I think about KT tape, or I hate saying KT tape because the T means tape. Oh, it's one of my pet peeves and I just did it, but you guys will forgive me. With kinesiology tape, you sweat, right? And it comes off, right? Okay. And then, or it gets caught on your shirt, and then it just starts to tear itself off you because the little end is rolled up. That part gets stuck on your shirt as you're moving. Then it starts pulling more and more. So there's a problem with kinesiology tape if you sweat. Also, if you use any kind of topical products that you're using for inflammation or pain or recovery, most of them don't get along well with each other, right? So that's problem number one. And then with sleeves, how many of us have ever put a sleeve on only to watch it slide, either down the thigh, down the knee, down wherever, right? That it doesn't like to stay in its proper spot. And you're always yanking. You watch people do the yank in between points, always doing that. I don't know if you really, maybe you did, but it was so interesting that like the benefits of kinesiology tape are beyond just holding, having that silicone it creates a better benefit than just holding the brace in place. But let's be honest, your brace stays in place better than your sleeve stays in place better than any other sleeve I've ever worn. I can say that. And so it's kind of fascinating how it's kind of an entrepreneurial home run, the way that you created this product.
Yeah, appreciate it. And to be fair, that was the bar we set was not that much higher than what you just said. It's this premium level of support. Let's make sure that it stays in place. And hopefully we'll get some of those benefits that we heard about around kinesiology taping, which, to be fair, we weren't the experts, right? That's why I have Dr. K here is, with the PhD in sports science and the master's in kinesiology. I like to say he'll forget more about taking care of the human body than I'll ever know. But yeah, you're right. I mean, inside this knee sleeve, if you're actually, another reason to come to YouTube,
nice.
If you can see this glistening little pattern on the inside,
there it is.
That is the medical grade silicone that is essentially mimicking a pattern, the most common taping pattern that someone like Dr. K would apply to your body to support all the key muscles, ligaments, and tendons in and around the knee. And indeed, because the medical grade silicone has better skin adhesion, than just a sleeve. It wants to stay in place better. So there is that, and it is more supportive as well. But boy, the additional deeper benefits of and I'll put the ball in the tee for Dr. K to come hit it out of the park later. But with a compression sleeve, it sort of wants to sort of glide across the skin, right? It's not really sticking in place. It's not really having strong adhesion to the skin, and depending on the type of material you're using, so it's going to move around. But it's, that compressive hug feels good, and so there's benefit there. There's confidence that can come from that, that bit of compression on something that feels maybe a little bit delicate. But when you add the element of the kinesiology strips, is what we call them, this medical grade silicone, and it starts to really stick to the skin like the tape does. Instead of now sliding, it's actually dragging and pulling the skin. So as the body moves, it's dragging and pulling the skin, and some really cool dynamics start to get unleashed in the body, in the fascia, that I'll let Dr. K go much deeper into. But it took us probably 3 years to really understand what the real broad potential was for the applications of what we built. And it was through trial and error and working with pro athletes and athletic trainers and so on to get there.
Yeah. And you ended up with, and we'll kind of get into this in a second, with a sleeve for the calf, a sleeve for the knee, a sleeve for the elbow. And it's funny, when recently I pinged a bunch of former guests about, like, what are your top most frequent injuries? Like, where do you see them? And it was totally diffuse. Like, there was no clear winner. It was like trunk, upper extremity, lower extremity, trunk, upper extremity, lower, and so for every person that said knee, someone said elbow, and then some, it was like not hard to realize you would need to create a sleeve for more than one area of the body. But I think the thing about kinesiology tape is that it is still massively misunderstood, because if you're over 40, you grew up with like Johnson & Johnson athletic tape, and that white tape, and then you'd get maybe some pre-roll under it, and then your trainer would tape you up, quote unquote. And that was almost like them building a brace or a sleeve on you, and then cut it off at the end of practice or at the end of the game. Along comes kinesiology tape. And at least in my journey, my experience is that people view it as like a newer version of that, when it's clearly not. And so, Dr. K, would you kind of walk us through again, for those of us who, very few people, as you know from your own experience, very few people really understand the unique value of kinesiology tape and what it's really doing?
Yeah, I've lived that as an athletic trainer of 30 years. I've lived that life of bracing people down with white tape, and
Yeah.
research would suggest that white tape as a brace, lasts about 20 minutes until the other body part has the same range of motion. So it's really moved forward. Years and years later, a Japanese chiropractor created this thing called kinesiology tape, right? And the brand Kinesio tape. And he really hung his hat on this idea of muscles and increasing what we call fascial space for lymph edema and blood flow. But now even some of that idea that you can touch a muscle has become rather antiquated. The new research would suggest that we're touching skin. Skin is the largest organ of your entire body and your brain. It's all one. It's the first embryonic layer. So that nervous system and touching skin is the all-powerful notion of increasing the body's efficiency to move and to want to move, right? So when somebody has an injury or discomfort, they will fear the movement, right? Kinesiophobia. And if we put a go sleeve on them with our silicone strips, that concept will increase and promote the idea of safety. That will promote the idea of movement. That's what we want. We want more of a global thought process, instead of thinking that, oh, we're putting a sleeve on to support the ACL. We know we can't do that. We could put a sleeve on with this the silicone strip idea and create this thing called tangential shear. tangential shear helps with skin and fascial mobility. And as we get old, skin and fascial mobility become rather affixed, if not Velcroed down would be a good idea. Everything's kind of Velcroed as we get older in our body. So with our concepts, with the K-tape idea is we can increase fascial glide and slide, tangential shear, increase space, promote safety, and have a great pickleball game.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I think one of the problems in pickle is that you are young at heart. That's what brings you out on the court, and you have this illusion that the court size means,
oh, it's good,
right? Yeah. It's that, oh, I don't have to worry about it. It's right there. It's a plastic ball, and I don't have to swing over my head, and therefore, and I always tell people take a video camera and video one side of the court, and don't track the ball, and just watch the players' movements and watch how long they are out on those courts doing wind sprints. And they would never think wind sprints, right? And all of that shearing that's going on as they're driving to the kitchen line, slamming on the brakes, shuffling back and forth, going back into the transition zone when there's a pop up or for a lob, chasing down a lob. All of that movement, for many of them, there's, and I think we kind of touched on this off camera, there's kind of two types of picklers out there. One is from couch to pickleball, where it's a slightly more athletic version of bowling. It's very social. They rent their paddles, or they have the 2 for $50 Amazon deal. They are not using a ball that's ever been used in any tournament. I don't know where they get them, but I see them all the time on the courts. I'm like, where did you get that? They got a good deal on Amazon. Who knows what it would cost to make those things. And they're just out there having a blast. Yeah, it's the pickleball starter kit, 100%, right? And and they have not moved their body in years or decades, and then they go back out, and that Velcro has set in, right, over time. And then you have the second category of athlete, which is the athlete who was a racehorse earlier in their life, either as a hobbyist, as a college athlete, as a semi-pro athlete, even as a pro athlete. And they've transferred into pickle because no one was playing it professionally for 40 years. And they have this illusion that they can still move the way they used to move, and whatever that might look like. And yet this idea of this Velcro developing, it reminds me of like collagen and skin elasticity from an aesthetic perspective, and I think people are, it's like what's going on under, it's like the equivalent of that, but happening under the hood instead of on the paint job on the surface.
Yeah, hyaluronan and water, and as they kind of bind together, called bulk water, those play a large role in what exactly you said. And in the skin world, and people in the beauty world, that's a big deal. But also in the movement world, fascia, skin glide, fascial glide, we have all these layers of tissue. And as we get older, we dehydrate and we don't move. All we really need is go back to Jack LaLanne and do a bunch of jumping jacks to prep our body. I mean, I know I'm antiquating myself with that name right there, but dynamic movement prior to pickleball, would be really beneficial to not just increase this idea of slide and glide, but to increase the nervous system's response to what's going to happen right now.
Yes.
Long-term static stretching, it shows very little information as far as risk of injury. And we know that through the research and a high level of research of evidence, but we know that dynamic movement, along with support, tactile acuity with K-tape or Go sleeves would really help you increase your awareness. That's what we want to do.
That's brilliant. I literally start every pickleball session with jumping jacks. Good. And now my ADD brain wants to know if jumping jacks are named after Jack LaLanne.
Maybe.
Somebody Google this and put it in the comments on YouTube, or text me, because I will lose sleep over things like this.
People will be YouTubing who's Jack LaLanne right now.
Oh my God, that too. Yeah. Try to do some of his full extension push-ups, with his arms all the way out. Like, good luck, guys. This guy was a stud.
Jumpsuit, no less.
Yes. Bring back the jumpsuit. I'm telling you, bring back the jump.
Jumping jacks, those dynamic movements, bear crawling, jumping jacks, playing on the jungle gym, all those ideas are great body awareness, not just about strength, body awareness, prepping your nervous system, priming your nervous system for what's about to occur on the pickleball.
Yeah, that's really well said. I think when you were talking about the safety, the mental safety, about movement, about trusting your body, can you guys elaborate a little bit more? Because it's a vicious circle, and I'll say it my way, and then you'll say it your way, which is like when you think you are injured, I would use the word guard your movement, which ironically probably leads to more injury. And one of the things I've always found with products that I really like are products where I forget that I have anything to guard. Mm-hmm. And then I end up moving more naturally and more safely. So you had mentioned that earlier, and I thought that was a really key thing. Can you kind of go back over that for people to understand the psychology of that's really important on the mind, body?
Yeah, so when it comes to injury or discomfort, everything is three-pronged. It's bio. Is there actually some tissue damage? It's psycho, right? Psychologically, what's going on? And sociologically, am I going to be able to play pickleball tomorrow? Mm-hmm. So it's biopsychosocial.
Yes.
And when you have biopsychosocial problems or pain, now you have you have threat. Your brain every day is on threat. You get up out of bed, your first step, am I going to die? That's what your brain thinks. Your brain is basically just trying to keep you alive. It's the computer, right? And the computer runs the body. Remember, it's the neuromuscular system. It's not the muscular system, not the fascial system, not the digestive system. It's the neuro everything. That should be primary. So nervously, your brain should understand your body and its awareness of space. When you get hurt, you guard, like you said, or you'll basically clutch or grip, right? So if you hurt your ankle, what will you do? Or your calf, you'll grab your calf with two hands. Why? Because the brain promotes safety. You want to grab it to splint it to promote safety. Wow. Now, because hands can't be there the whole time. So what do? We put a sleeve on there, and we put intricate pieces of silicone in there to give you more tactile awareness. That tactile awareness increases safety, it promotes safety through something called your somatosensory cortex, where your body is in relation to space to those pieces of your body. Your body knows where your calf is, knows where your foot is, knows where everything is. When you have an injury, those areas become what we call smudged. They lack acuity. So that's why we put K-tape on things or sleeves on things, because when you lack acuity, you lack proprioception, the mechanoreception in there all becomes rather fuzzy. That's why you grab things, right, to promote acuity. So if we put a sleeve on there, and the idea of kinesiology tape on there, we increase tactile acuity, that increases brain safety, and that's what we want. Oh yeah, there you go. Bingo. Boom. We're blowing minds right now. But that's really it, right? We're not about the muscles, you guys. We're about the brain. We're about promoting safety.
Okay, so for those of you who are listening, I can't explain what just happened in Zoom, but as Dr. K just blew our minds visually behind him, it like changed into like the 4th of July, right on effing cue. Now,
it did, right? Yeah, it did.
I don't even know how that happened, but that was like the best part of my day so far.
The funny thing about it is that by now, over the course of the last 24 hours of trying to put this together, I would have been tricked into thinking you did that, but then I was like, no. For sure, Tim doesn't have this level of game to cue up the Zoom background. Like, no offense, but you're not an IT. Let's be honest.
That is really good. Let me tell you, you and I are friends for life now, because being an East Coast kid, when you bag on somebody like that is a pure sign of affection and respect. And otherwise you just keep your mouth shut and you do it when you're off camera. But exactly. To do that on, you guys, for those of you listening, we've had just the most ridiculous time with technology for the last 24 hours trying to make this stupid interview happen. Like, you have no idea. And it's been all on my end. So yes, he is 100% right. I do not have a future in IT. Woo! You don't want me. You don't want me. That is for sure. So yeah, you are quite right, Darren. That was not me. I just sat and watched.
That was brilliant. I wanted to assign you credit for that. I'm like, no, I can't do that. Sorry. That just wouldn't be real.
That was really cool.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh my God. Oh, so good. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, needed that. Yeah. So you did just blow our mind, and thinking about this, And I like the way you described that, because in my clinical background, I'm a music therapist. That's my day job. And I'm a neuroscience informed music therapist. And really my job is to help people use music to master their nervous system. And so, but there's a biopsychosocial spiritual component to that. Like there's this self that's having the experience of being the self in a social setting, not in a vacuum. And all of these things are inputs at all times, right? And our brain is computing all the time: threat level, interaction level, connection level, disconnection level. All these things are happening, and they matter. And what that looks like to a pickler is the grief you feel when you have an injury and you're off the court and your buddies are out on the court, and you've disconnected, you've unplugged from this new social circle that you have now connected with as a middle-aged person, which is vital for mental health and wellness. And so then you have this anxiety that comes with, how long am I out? Am I ever going to be able to play the same way again? This is the third time this is blah, 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 blah. I just got back from this thing and now I got this thing going on, right? And then you just have the physical sensations of whatever you're going through, right? And these are all impacting every single pickleball player. And one of the reasons I started the podcast was I started to notice my friends would disappear for like 6 weeks at a time. You'd go to the courts and then suddenly, poof, Bob's gone. Haven't seen Bob in an age. And then you're like, he comes back and he's waddling in with some armor on. Bob, where were you? Oh, I had a calf, or I had a knee. It's like they gave birth, to something. And oh yeah, had a shoulder. Yeah. Welcome back. And this is the life. I'm off the court, genuinely, guys. I am off the court today because I hit my head with my car door on Sunday, triggering a mild concussion. I have a history of 21 concussions. I was in the hospital in May for one. I went through a massive rehab over 2023. And on Sunday morning, I went 9-0, was crushing it physically on the court, feeling some of the best. Shout out to Dr. Jody Denise, who's one of the trainers who has been rehabbing me back to this like peak state. And I walk to my car and I'm got a bunch of things in my hand and whack, I crack my head. And now I'm off the courts because my symptoms, my left eye isn't tracking properly. And, I'm having motion sickness and things like that. And I'm just like, I'm off again. Here we go. And so there's the physical symptoms. There's the anxiety about, I have a tournament next Sunday. And then there's the social piece, which is I'm home and I'm not playing with my friends and I'm an extrovert. And so these are the things, the real battles and that all of us face. Now, none of us our income is involved with this, but there's something much more important than that, which is if you were to invest in anything for the best long-term return on your health span and your lifespan, it's relationships. It's the best investment you can make as a human being because you're a social animal and you will live and die by your weak and strong social connections. And so for all of my friends who are listening to this, you've been through this. That's why you listen to this channel, because you're trying to minimize this in your life. So I just love that you were insightful enough to kind of address that from those three levels of being a human being. It's the self inside the patient. That's a phrase I heard one of my mentors say once that I thought was brilliant. Yeah, we're not just mechanical.
That's right. We use the same phrase as we're not just a piece of meat. We're not just a knee or an ankle. We're a nervous system with thought, interactions, and social qualities. So everything you just said still rings true with even in the sports medicine field. That's exactly right. So when we treat, or when I treat the human and the person, right? And I get to know them because that relationship, just like you said, is as strong. No matter how much you know about sports medicine, that relationship is even stronger, and their will to, believe in what I have for them.
Brilliant. So when we've now uncovered really the magic of why it is that when you put kinesio tape on your body, what it's really doing for you is helping your brain understand where your body is in space and time and giving you that safety to not guard and move more naturally. And that as you used to.
Yeah, that's the nervous system way. And the mechanical way would be the idea of tangential sliding glide, we call it, these fascia skin, right? So
letting that move. And that's kind of the antidote to the Velcro. Is that kind of
Yeah, exactly right. Because just like K-tape, with this, when you have silicone on your skin and you go through a range of motion, the silicone is sticking, so it's opposing that range of motion. So you're getting a what we call tangential shear of the fascial skin, right? And we have multiple layers of fascial tissue, and we're helping to kind of create that mobility of the fascia that'll
Mm,
increase that space. And when you increase that space, you allow for an artery, nerve, and vein to have more understanding, right? So
mm,
get more lymph flow, you definitely get more fluid flow, but
yep.
also you take pressure off these cutaneous nerves, these skin nerves that are affixed underneath all those skin tissues. And if we can open up that space, we can open up the cutaneous nerve information, which promotes our brain awareness.
Brilliant.
If the non PhD in the room was able to sort of describe like why the hell do we care?
Yeah.
Um, you know, as a pickleballer who's trying to your point, stay in the game. Every time I go and spend time out here, it's social and it's a little competitive. I'm out there competing, but also competing with myself. It's
Yes.
I want to get better, right? Most of us have that mindset. I'm
Yes.
trying to make the most of my time. And as you're investing more and more into it and loving that, the body may not be ready, right? And the body responds to that trauma and that stress that you're putting it under with tightness and inflammation. You may not see it, but it's if you feel tightness, if you feel fatigued, let alone pain, that's the body's sign that it's telling you something. And I've got some inflammation, I've got some healing, some trauma here that I'm dealing with. And if during that recovery period between pickleball day 1 and pickleball day 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, if during those recovery times the body doesn't deal adequately with the inflammation, tightness, and fatigue that's building up, then it starts to load. It starts to load up. So it goes from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4. And as you load up inflammation, tightness, and fatigue, the performance is certainly going to, is going to degrade, but your risk of injury is also dramatically increasing. And even just consciously and subconsciously, like, consciously you're like, still feeling it today, but I'll play through it. We're getting through this, right? But subconsciously, the body's timid and careful and cautious and more likely to protect the calf and maybe pop the Achilles instead, right? Because the calf is really under duress. So weird things like that happen. And inflammation causes very, very weird things because it's putting pressure on the neurological highway and can trigger all different kinds of outcomes that we don't want. And so the goal is every day during recovery. So just simplifying this a little bit, every day during recovery, if you can back down the inflammation, tightness, and fatigue to the minimum, hopefully the baseline, but as close to it as we can get, then performance goes up and injury risk goes down. And so how the sleeves work in that paradigm and sort of the default use case for most people is after I've played pickleball and after I've showered, I'm now going to pull the sleeves on for 2, 3, or 4 hours. And all those mechanical and psychosocial impacts that Dr. K was just talking about go into effect. Like as you're moving the body, it's dragging and opening up the skin tissues and you're accelerating blood flow. So you'll actually see this pattern on the knee sleeve. If you wear this sleeve for 2 to 3 hours, you're going to see actually kind of a pinkish design when you take it off on your knee, because that's the capillaries really just getting filled and just getting higher volume. So you're getting that higher volume through the capillaries. You're also getting the higher volume of lymphatic drainage. And that's just helping the body do what it does. The body gets rid of inflammation, tightness, and fatigue if you give it long enough. We're just giving it a push. We're trying to get it to happen faster and more completely.
Yeah,
that is so insightful. I just want to just touch on that really quickly because I didn't
get any big background blow.
You did.
But you're here to
that's for throwing shade at me. I turned that off.
You'll know this, Tim. Darren is my cerebellum, basically, and I'm the two hemispheres. What I think up here goes to Darren, and Darren deciphers really what should come out of my extremities. And okay, I'll use my mouth as an extremity because he just reduced everything I said to something much more.
Bring it back to English.
Oh, yeah, I brought it back to English. So
Yeah.
Darren, appreciate
Yeah,
you.
well done.
It's
No,
a
you
good
need
push and pull. It's a good
you
push
do,
and
yeah.
pull.
Hey, there you go. You guys have your own glide and slide going on
There we
there
go.
between with your language. But I think you just blew my mind, and I give you virtual, virtual fireworks behind your display, because I've never once considered wearing a sleeve after.
That's
I've
right.
always considered a sleeve during. And I think there's a before, there's a during, and there's an after phase for exercise or for playing a sport, and that we all intuitively think through those. And there are deficiencies in each phase that lead to reduced recovery. And if we can start to plug those gaps in each phase, then we increase our body's ability to recover faster, because no one's going to take more time off from pickle. And that was the whole genesis of this, was like nobody's going to take enough rest. So how do we speed up the process? What are the different modalities, and how can we hack the recovery system? So just the fact, when you started talking about lymph earlier, Dr. K, I was thinking about this, it's kind of like the sewage system, clearing out all the destroyed muscle and any other tissue that's been damaged. How do we clean that out of the system quickly so that we can bring healthy tissue or healthy blood flow and into that area for cleansing and for rebuilding and reconstruction? So then when you just said this, Darren, about wearing it afterwards, it promotes that blood flow and that lymph flow. And I think that's something I think people intuitively kind of understand. Blood flow is good for them. Mm-hmm. But I tell you, you take 10 people, you pull them off the street and you ask them what lymph is, they're not going to know what it is, much less that their body's full of it. So can either of you, just real quickly for the audience, just kind of help them understand this super important part of the equation that we didn't get taught when we were in like high school biology?
Yeah, well, I think what comes to it now is, we use the word load management. Pro athletes will use load management like crazy, because it's exactly what you said. How can we keep this player on the court for 80 games for a season,
Yep.
right? 160 year games for baseball or whatever sport you have, is the load management piece. And, you have athletes traveling to and from, you have airplanes, you have cars, automobiles, all this stuff. So the recovery piece, which is now a very big piece in sport, which, recovery shops are popping up everywhere with compression boots, game readies, some type of neurostim. They're all out there, right? We even have, invasive techniques too. So, but we're all trying to address the nervous system, the flow systems, and definitely the lymph system. And you explained the lymph system really well, laymanly, about just all the junk tissue, all the junk fluid flow that needs to be recuperated and kind of recycled. And, the old adage before we had all these products was go lay down, put your feet up. And that still works. That still works. But lay down, put your feet up with the go sleeve on or with some type of compression on would definitely help move blood flow and help move lymph faster. So the load management piece is becoming very big in all athletics, whether it's amateur athletics or pro athletics, to get to the next recovery phase so we can stay on the court. And that's the whole.
So that's the whole point. So I think what I'd like you guys to make is a go. Oh crap, come on. When you're surfing, you buy a wetsuit. So I would like a go sleeve wetsuit, full body.
You need a go bodysuit.
I want a go bodysuit for
It's the most requested product we have. Absolutely.
It would not surprise me. I will tell you, like whenever I'm wearing my compression boots and I think about like my back being tight, I'm like, well, they can't make a back version because it'll kill me. That's called a boa constrictor. But like, I swear, it's like some products we make these jokes about where it's just like, can you just make a full body version of that I can just dunk into? Because what doesn't hurt?
It's not the craziest idea in the world. I mean, we were just talking yesterday with the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers chiropractor and functional movement therapist. And yeah, there's a lot of requests for, can you just help me apply more of the skin movement, the fascial movement to more of the body of my players, right? Yep. How that was the nature of the conversation. So even some products that we've had in mind for a while now, and we really want to geek out and nail them. And we really want to make sure they fit certain modalities, and they, oh yeah, it helps with these particular conditions. And, this guy's just saying, just help the skin move. Can you just help the skin move more regularly? So like it's very interesting. Like I find the 49ers actually, in working with them and over 100 other NFL athletes this season, there's something to be learned there, because as they come into the preseason, their bodies are not that dissimilar to a newbie coming into pickleball, right? Just on a little different level. But the bottom line is their bodies aren't ready for the
Right.
volume that it's about to endure.
Yeah.
Let alone in pickleball, just standing on the court, readiness is, on the balls of the foot,
Yeah.
and you're not standing straight, you're bent. And, there's a lot of things just standing there that the body's not used to. So same idea with a professional football player. They're coming into the preseason, the volume's going to come up from where it's been before. They're at the highest risk that they'll be in that build, in that preseason, in that, as they build into the volume and the body gets ready. And so what do? They go for the maximum insurance policy. And so the maximum insurance policy is, I'm going to use the sleeves while I recover, and I'm going to use them while I train, because I'm trying to not just get rid of, but I'm also trying to reduce the amount of buildup of that waste, that inflammation, tightness, and fatigue. I'm trying to reduce that buildup during the training. And the goal for all of us is to get to a point where we want the minimum on our bodies, not just because we want to look good in the sun. It just feels good. It feels good to have the minimum on our bodies when we're training and playing. And that's the goal. And so they will get to that place where they will just recover in our products. And then they'll get to the place 3 weeks later in the season, well, oh man, my calf is tight, my Achilles, whatever it is that's happening. And now I'm going to go back into wearing them more aggressively, and I'm going to double down on the insurance policy for a week until I start to feel you. And so the idea is listen, right? Like listen to the body. Don't just, the old days of rubbing dirt on it and all that. No, we can do better than that now, right? Like listen, take advantage of what the body's telling you. And it's not a badge of courage to go out, limping around, right? You should be trying to deal with that proactively. And we're a great Band-Aid. Kinesiology sleeves that we've built are a great Band-Aid. We'd rather not be the Band-Aid, right?
Right.
We want to be the preventative side of it. So,
yeah. So when we talked about that, you guys have kind of created these 3 different shapes on the pegboard for the calf, for the knee, and for the elbow. And we were just kind of briefly discussing them. I think Dr. K, I don't remember which one of you said the phrase tennis calf or tennis leg to me, kind of offhand. And I just kind of paused, what's tennis leg? And so of course I go do a little cursory Google search on tennis leg, and I realize that's exactly what happened to me on Thanksgiving Day of 2022. And I felt it, and it's exactly what happened to my very first buddy who I started playing pickleball with together, just so we'd have something to do. He popped his calf on the court, and it sounded like he had slapped his thigh with his paddle. It was an audible pop. I mean, it was like across the net. You know what I mean? I'm like on the other side of the court, and you hear just, and you're just like, what was that? Did you just smack yourself? And then he pulls up, like the racehorse, he pulls up out of the stride, and you're like, oh, man down, middle-aged man down. Here we go. And that was it. Like we just, our trajectories instantly split. So I want us to talk a little bit about what that is and how your sleeve helps that. So whoever wants to dive in on tennis leg, because I think that's going to be the new piece of the equation, because people have heard about plantar fasciitis, they've heard about ankle sprains, they've heard about knee issues, right up the chain. But tennis leg, tell me more.
Tennis leg it's an old term that's in a lot of textbooks. I mean, that term probably comes from the 60s and 70s.
Wow.
And tennis leg is a medial head gastroc tear. So a calf tear, the calf has 2 heads, one's inner, one's outer, medial, lateral, and it's called the gastroc. So it's a medial head gastroc tear, and it's a partial tear. And most likely the mechanism of injury would be moving laterally off your toes, where you're flexing your calf a lot. So I have the same injury. I did it when I was 51 skateboarding, but same concept, on my toes, going up the front of a ramp, going to pull this nasty front side air, and no, pop, loud pop. Everyone heard it, came down, crutches for 6 to 8 weeks until I could rehab this thing really well. So the concept of the medial gastroc tear, called tennis leg, is for everybody. It doesn't just have to be tennis, but as we get older, tissues just they're just not as mobile, and they're not responding to what we call eccentric loads. That's you bouncing up and down, that the jumping jacks, they're called eccentric loads. And we need to prep our body for eccentric loads. When you're not ready for eccentric loads, we get muscle tears. So with the sleeve idea is that we put silicone to mimic the medial and lateral gastroc head, right, to help with the tangential shear and the tactile acuity again there. So along with compression, because as Darren will tell you, compression just feels good, right?
Yep.
And when you have compression, just like I said before, when you have an injury, you go to grab that injury with both hands to make that connection of safety. The same idea with the sleeve too, okay? So tennis leg's been around for a long time, but it works well with what we're talking about today.
Yeah. Darren, any other 4th of July fireworks you want to drop on that?
Why didn't I get 4th of July fireworks? I thought that was a good one, man. You'd have to call a Zoom one.
That's the new bar that we have to clear now to impress Zoom so much that we get the fireworks.
Totally. Totally.
I love it.
But yeah, really common injury. I would say Achilles tendon tears, rotator cuff tears, those are your two primary tendon tears from about 36 to 37 on up.
Okay.
Tendons can't handle eccentric loads. We know it from a tennis player and any type of thrower that involves the overhead throw, the arm tries to accelerate, and the rotator cuff just cannot handle deceleration. The same thing with being on your feet. And the calf, if you think about it, it's a postural muscle. It's on all the time because you're standing a lot part of the day, you're walking or you're running and being active, and you just can't give it the time that it really needs. It's a postural muscle. So when it's a postural, that means it's in tone or neurologically cued for the entire day. So, and then we go out and play pickleball and we ask, so you want people say, how did I tear my Achilles or how did I pop my calf? Well, dude, you've been on your feet all day and then you had poor nutrition and you still came out here to play 3 hours of pickleball. Of course you pulled your calf,
Or I've never had plantar fasciitis in my whole life. What happened? And it's like, well, let me feel your calf. It feels like a piece of rebar.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So as soon as anything starts to tighten up in that lower leg region for pickleball, anything's possible from that point forward, including translating up into the lower back, which happens a lot as well. And then you've got the elbow tendonitis type of issues. So yeah, you can see why it's almost as if we had pickleball in mind, right? So like the calf, the Achilles, the knee, and the elbow.
Yep.
Got it. Covered. The only thing that we haven't covered is the ankle, and that's coming.
Okay. Ooh, trailer. You heard it here. Yeah, I think I came from soccer prior to pickle, and on grass, non-rotational sport, and very different approach, to what your legs go through, and not concrete, and so I developed plantar fasciitis right away in my right leg, and I'm right-handed, and felt Achilles tightness in that right leg, bordering pain, but definitely just tightness and tenderness. And what I never made the connection, and it's so interesting that you mentioned this, because a lot of people don't make the connection with their calf health and plantar fasciitis. They think it's a foot issue. Right. And they don't understand that it's, really, well, where you're presenting with pain, where does that terminate? And it's all connected in this long chain. So if we can better take care of what's going on, actually, particularly for pickleball, because all of these, like peroneus longus and tibialis and soleus muscles that no one has been exercising for decades because they're sitting in front of a computer like we are right now, there's just no tone anywhere in there, right? And then suddenly you go out and do this endurance sport. And I say endurance sport real, like honestly, because I remember we interviewed Goo Energy Labs, the company that does the triathlete energy products. And I showed them my the heart rate monitor that I wear when I was playing singles, what my output was on a typical tournament day. And they were just like, oh my God, pickleball is an endurance sport. They're like, all these numbers that you're showing are the numbers we see with endurance sports. Like, and they never thought of it that way because of course it's first of all called pickleball, and you know, for all the things we've already joked about. And so we don't truly appreciate the impact that we're having on this from knee through foot. And that's why I think a lot of us are just under prepared for that. And to your point, dehydrated, right? There was a great study with D1 athletes. They found that 2/3 of D1 athletes show up to practice hypohydrated. And it's like, these are our best thoroughbreds out there. And if 2 out of 3 of them are underhydrated showing up for practice, what are the rest of us in terms of our hydration practices? What is that queuing up for this kind of, you know, probably, I imagine that hypohydration makes the Velcro worse. I don't know is that an accurate kind of?
Yeah. I mean, over time for sure. But I would also say that we know that even the slightest bit of hydration affects about 10% of performance based on research.
Wow.
Alone, you know, especially pickleball where you're going to be playing for, you know, and outside. So you're looking at a lot of other environmental factors. I was going to say one other thing about the sleeve is that, you know, as I say, calf is a postural muscle. You have to think about the opposite side. You said anterior tib. So I'll say line of fascia, all that is queued up through the sleeve too. We also have a strip of silicone to give more acute information to the front side because as I would add to your pickleball warm up, jumping jacks is a posterior chain exercise. Is doing a lot of toe lifts, 100 toe lifts off the bench just to get activation in the anterior musculature and the anterior fascia, because you need to create these, what we call force coupling, to have really good dynamic movement and strength. And typically with events that are off your toes are just posterior musculature, force coupling is always off. So
gotcha. That's a great tip.
Queuing on both sides.
So when you see people walking on their heels as a warm up, is that similar?
That's good. Yeah, walk on their heels. That's good. I would say I usually, you know,
just toe raises.
Toe raises. So for soccer players who came in with quote shin splints,
yes, we
do a lot of posterior tib, plantar fascia work, the whole posterior chain, as you said. But one of theirs is 100 activations of toe raises off the plinth or off the treatment table activation, and or they're on a really light TheraBand doing tons of activation, or my hands are there and we're going really, really, really fast, like purpose, just to get them to queue up in their anterior chain.
Got it. That's great.
Super great. It would work for all these sports. It would work for pickleball for sure.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Brilliant. Gentlemen, this has been fantastic. Where do people find out about your product online?
GoSleeves.com. GoSleeves.com.
Brilliant. Awesome. And do either of you maintain an Instagram following where you like to shout out your handles here?
Yeah, certainly you can find Go Sleeves. You can also find me at Darren, DARREN _Lancaster. And Dr. K, you're there too, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm Dr.Kreis. You can just type in that's Dr. Kreiswirth, type that in. I'm also under Black Belt Sports Medicine.
Ooh, that's got a good ring to it right there. Well, all right, gentlemen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on Pickleball Recovery.
Thank you, Tim.
Loved it.
Woo! Thanks so much for listening. Did you know there's one place on the web for all your recovery needs? It's at www.pickleballrecovery.com. You'll find all the products I personally use and recommend, along with exclusive discounts on many of them, as well as my blog where I help you make sense out of all the different products and practices out there to keep you moving and feeling better so you play better. After all, your body is the most expensive piece of equipment you own. Also, do you want to know the #1 mistake picklers make that leads to increased pain, soreness, stiffness, and injury? just head over to pickleballrecovery.com and download my free guide to playing with less pain and more enjoyment. Listen, pickleball makes us feel young at heart, but not young in body. So go download my free guide at www.pickleballrecovery.com. See you next time.